When you think about conquering a planet, you probably think of armies or empires. But for the last 400 million years, plants have been fighting that exact war. It is an absolutely epic story of innovation, of competition, and brilliant inventions that have literally shaped the ground beneath our feet. So let's dig in. But you really get the story. We've got to focus on one central question. If you had to pick just one thing, what do you think was the single greatest invention in the history of plant life? Was it the leaf? The root? Something else entirely? Keep that question in the back of your mind, because I think the answer is going to surprise you. All right, so our story starts with the very first pioneers of the land, the first plants to really stand tall. But they faced one massive watery problem. Let me introduce you to the pteridophytes. Now, this group includes the ferns we all know and love, and they were truly revolutionary. Why? Because they developed vascular tissue. Think of it as the world's first plumbing system for plants. This let them pull water up from the soil and grow tall, reaching for that precious sunlight in a way nothing had before. They were a huge leap forward. But they had an Achilles heel. And that Achilles heel was all about sex. Seriously. For fertilization to happen, their sperm had to physically swim through water to get to an egg. This was their critical weakness. It meant that no matter how big and tall they got, they were forever tethered to damp, moist places. They'd conquered height, but they hadn't conquered geography. So, this became the great evolutionary challenge, right? How could plants finally cut the cord? How could they break free from the water's edge and start colonizing all the vast, dry parts of the continents? Well, they needed a new piece of tech, a better way. And the piece of technology that answered that challenge? Oh, it was an absolute game changer, the seed. So let's just compare the old tech with the new for a second. A spore, which is what ferns use, is just a single vulnerable cell. It has no food reserves, it has to land in a perfectly wet spot at the perfect time just to have a shot. A seed, on the other hand, a seed is a fortress. It's got a fully formed little plant embryo inside, its own packed lunch of food, and a tough protective coat. It can wait for months, even years, for just the right moment. This is honestly the best way to think about it. A seed isn't just a way to reproduce, it's a tiny self-contained survival pod. This one invention allowed plants to travel, to wait, and to set up shop in places the ferns could only dream of. So who were these pioneers that first started using this powerful new technology? Well, we call them the gymnosperms. The name gymnosperm literally means naked seed. And it's because, unlike the plants that would come later, their seeds aren't tucked away inside a fleshy fruit. Nope, they develop right out in the open, usually on the scales of a cone. These were the plants that first mastered life with seeds. A perfect example, and one you can still see today, is the ginkgo tree. This thing is a living fossil. Its ancestors were hanging out with the dinosaurs, and it gives us this incredible window into what the ancient world of seed plants look like. And then you have another ancient group, the cycads, and they really show off the crucial innovation here: pollen. The pollen grain acted like a tiny armored vehicle, delivering the sperm directly to the egg with no water required. The wind could now do the job that once demanded a puddle. This is how plants broke free. But the group that really, truly perfected the gymnosperm lifestyle was the conifers. We're talking pines, firs, spruces. They took that seed and cone model and just ran with it, dominating huge landscapes and creating the massive forests of the north. They were tough, they were efficient, and they were wildly successful. For millions and millions of years, the gymnosperms ruled the world. But then, another great innovation appeared. And this one would trigger an explosion of diversity that the world had never seen before. Say hello to the angiosperms, the flowering plants. Their name actually means enclosed seed, and that right there is their first big upgrade. By tucking the seed away inside a protective little chamber called an ovary, they gave their offspring an extra layer of security. And that ovary, well, it would later develop into another brilliant invention, the fruit. But their most famous invention, of course, was the flower. And listen, a flower isn't just pretty. It's a highly sophisticated piece of marketing. It's a billboard, using colors and smells to attract customers, and it's a landing pad, perfectly designed so that when a bee or a bird stops by, it gets dusted with pollen. They basically turned animals into their own personal delivery service. It's genius. And inside that flower, they have a secret weapon called double fertilization. It is an incredible feat of efficiency. So check this out. One sperm fertilizes the egg to create the baby plant, but a second sperm has a different job. Its only job is to kickstart the creation of the food supply, the endosperm. What does that mean? It means the plant wastes zero energy making food for a seed unless it's been successfully fertilized. That is a massive competitive advantage. So you put it all together, you've got the flower for pollination, you've got the protected seed, and you've got the fruit for dispersal. It created a life cycle that was basically a blueprint for world domination, and boy, did it work. Today, something like 90% of all plant species on Earth are flowering plants. Now, this whole evolutionary arms race is a really cool story, but it's not just ancient history. It is, quite literally, the foundation of our entire world. I mean, think about this 400 million year journey. First, you have the pioneers who stood tall but were chained to the water. Then, the invention of the seed allowed their descendants to finally break free and spread across the globe. And finally, the masterstroke of the flower allowed one group to just outcompete almost everyone and totally conquer the planet. So why does this matter to you and me? Well, the legacy of the gymnosperms builds our homes and gives us paper. And the success of the angiosperms, they provide nearly every single thing we eat, from the wheat in our bread to the apple in our hands. Even the oxygen we're breathing right now is a gift from this 400 million year story of conquest. The flower proved to be the ultimate advantage, the killer app that led to the incredible diversity we see all around us today. But here's the thing. Evolution never, ever stops, which leaves us with one final, fascinating question to chew on. What's going to be the next great invention in the story of plant life? What comes next?